Welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Tim.
I'm Juliet, and I've got a card for you here, Tim.
Oh, doing Guess a Card. I love it.
It's hosting the pod. It's 1 in a red for a sorcery rare with receive 4 design submissions, then ignore 3 submissions at random.
Oh no. Is this a reference to us getting just like the absolute most bumper crop of submissions that we've gotten? We got like 22 this time. I think this is Burning Inquiry if I got my card name right.
This is we want to receive 4 submissions, then ignore 3 for 1 in a red.
Oh, what is the other one? Is it like a goblin thing?
There is a goblin version of this.
Uh-oh.
There is, of course, goblin lore. The card in question we have today is Control of the Court.
Oh!
It's a Portal 3 Kingdoms card.
Oh.
Power-hungry units, the curse of the dynasty, have thrown the masses of the people into the depths of misery. Because, of course, we're talking about our August design challenge, Objection! Design a card showcasing the new keyword, Objection, which we're specific. Hey, this could be a ability word, this could be a keyword, this could be a keyword action, lots of different things. Got bonus points here for Party of the First. The card should be or care about a cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard. And Legal Brief. 4 lines of rules text or less, not counting reminder text.
All right. I thought this was going to be a tough one. Coming up with a new keyword is always pretty hard. The flavor on this objection is also pretty, what I felt was pretty tough, but maybe everyone's just felt up to the challenge. They really want to do this. What are you hoping for out of objection?
I'm interested in, Party of the First, that's kind of a pun on like contract law, which is the part of law. I mean, my experience is just in like torts and contract law and reading legal briefs and that sort of thing too, of course. But of course, we've got one of the hosts of Beacon of Creation, our good friend Peter, who's heading to law school right now. But Party of the First, I'm interested to see kind of how we fit the party part into things, how we fit that cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard. It could just be a creature, but when it's not, I think that'll be really interesting.
Alrighty. Well, our first card here, we got a returning submitter, Dragon of the West.
Of the West.
With Bend the Rules. Thank you. It's a conspiracy, so we're already starting off hot here. Conspiracy, you're going to draft these, and then you'll have them off to the side somehow. And our new keyword is going to tell us exactly what to do with this conspiracy here. Objection. Start the game with this conspiracy face down in the command zone. You may turn this conspiracy face up at any time if an opponent committed a crime this turn. Targeting opponents, anything they control, and/or cards in their graveyard is a crime. All right, so this is like a hidden conspiracy, but you get to turn it up once your opponent starts committing crimes. Mm-hmm. And then the ability of this particular one, you can imagine there might be 10 of them, but the ability of this card, Bend the Rules, is outlaws you control have Unleash, Menace, and Ward 1. Outlaw those from Thunder Junction. That's the 5-type batch of assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, and warlocks. So they get that bonus point.
And so this is a card with 2 lines of rules text. Yes. And let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 lines of text, including reminder text.
This is probably as far as you could possibly push this. The 2 to 12 ratio is maybe going to remain unchallenged.
And fits the card name of Bend the Rules. You're not breaking them, but you are bending them as much as they can be bent.
Dragon of the West back from their trip home in the West to just drop this giant card on us. A little more breakdown on this card. So Menace, obviously, we know Ward 1. But then this also gives your Outlaws Unleash. That was from Return to Ravnica, I want to say.
Yeah, I believe Return to Ravnica with the Rakdos mechanic, where it can enter with a +1/+1 counter, and if it does, it can't block. And so
Hmm.
you have that kind of trade-off. I think of Rakdos Cackler as kind of a big, maybe
Yeah.
Dead Revelers too, as like, hey, here's a little body. Do you want slightly under curve body, or do you want slightly above curve body, but you can't block?
Yeah, and I can see that option being especially relevant in like a conspiracy draft. You got 4 players. Players are going to stick a bunch of cards in their deck, but then a lot of times what'll happen is you got a bunch of ground creatures that, oh, it turns out I actually want these. But if they've got Unleash and Menace, well, now I can turn a couple of them into like bigger than usual, hard to block, get some damage in, maybe steal the Monarch, maybe do something else.
Mhm.
So Unleash is a nice option in that format. What do you think about Objection here? Our first attempt at this keyword.
I don't hate this. I mean, one of the other things that I think we'll be seeing is objection kind of implies in response to something else happening. It
Yeah,
has a very, like, interrupt
yeah,
in old magic parlance
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
feel. And so the idea of you have this ready and then an opponent commits a crime and you're able to turn this face up, I think makes a decent amount of sense. I didn't do a ton of, Outlaws of Thunder Junction
Mm,
playing, and so, like, I have to reread, be like, "Okay, which part is the crime
yeah,
part?" It's not damaging, it's targeting,
yeah,
that is the key. If I have bend the rules and you have been the like, okay, I've got this thing with ward, but if I've already flipped this up, then I don't need to flip up another one. I
yeah.
wonder, would you actually have a cycle of 10 of these? Maybe, but the kind of punishing someone for committing a crime versus
Hmm.
rewarding yourself for committing a crime is I don't know how those scales would weigh when you're also dealing with, like, face down permanent or face down conspiracies that could flip.
Yeah. I think it's maybe a little bit more exciting than the regular hidden agendas. Because that was the old conspiracy thing where, like, hey, it's a face down conspiracy and you can flip it whenever you want. And that's fine. I think it's like, maybe I'll just flip it right away because who cares? Or,
Mhm.
some other thing like that. Here it's like, ooh, I get to like wait until it happens, then flip it. Haha. That might be a little more action packed, a little more fun. An opponent in a 4-player game committing a crime, on the other hand, is pretty free.
Mhm.
I guess maybe your first outlaw doesn't get to benefit from bend the rules, but one opponent is going to target one of their opponents, probably by turn 4 at least, right?
Oh, that's a good point. It doesn't have to be committing a crime against you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
If I was, working for the next conspiracy
yeah.
product and
Hmm.
this was proposed, I might say, "Okay, can we also, like, select a player
Hmm.
in hiding?" And then you have this, like, face down thing, and everybody knows what player it's facing, or maybe everybody doesn't, but there's, like, a specific thing to it.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
in 1v1, if you're doing a 1v1, like, conspiracy sort of environment or
Ooh,
anything,
okay.
then it's obvious because okay, there's just one opponent. But if you're in multiplayer, then like you're kind of choosing at the beginning of the game, okay,
Hmm.
who am I going to be watching? And maybe you pair up with somebody and you say, hey, I'm going to enable your objection cards because we're going to kind of team up or can do some kind
Hmm.
of politics, things like that.
Yeah, yeah. And conspiracy does often have like make secret choices before the game starts kind of stuff. So it's certainly like a part of that environment.
Mhm.
I guess if in this case, basically the first time anyone commits a crime, I'm flipping this. Like, there's not a lot of reason to be canny with it.
Especially because ward isn't reactive. You need to have ward before the spell. It's as opposed to something like hexproof.
Yeah, yeah. I could see with some of the objections, I don't want to reveal it right away, but I only get a window to reveal it every once in a while. Is that tension good? I'm not sure there's design space there, but maybe there is. Maybe that's actually a pretty fun thing.
Mhm. And I think this definitely does accomplish the 4 lines of rules text or less bonus point in a fun and kind of flavorful to the card name sort of
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. Alrighty, what do we got next?
Our next submission is from AuxiliaryOtter. It's Retrial. It's a rare sorcery for 3 white, no white. and it has Objection with a cost of 1 white. You may cast this spell for its objection cost if another spell was cast this turn. And then its effect is destroy all creatures and planeswalkers.
Huh. This is like a double spell mechanic. I think we had, what was it? Surge?
Surge? Yeah, Surge was you may cast this spell for its surge cost if you or a teammate has cast another spell this turn.
And objection is anybody. So
Mhm,
it's like expanded surge, right? Because if an opponent casts a spell, then I can pay the objection cost, right?
mhm.
This one's still sorcery speed, but you could definitely imagine plenty of other instants or whatever that could use objection. You can self synergize with this. You could play your card draw spell and then play retrial to wipe the board. Yeah, it feels kind of objectiony. It's got to be in response to something else. That's part of the flavor we were looking for. And yes, the 5 mana board wipe with set mechanic. So it's a good fit there too.
Yeah, I'm thinking about at least in my head, I envision play a blue single mana cantrip,
Hmm.
objection,
Yeah.
sort of wrath in a kind of miracle-esque
Hmm.
sort of way where
Yeah.
you're setting up this thing and maybe even like a instant speed draw to miracle on a different turn or something. It's we didn't see white surge the first
Oh,
time, I believe
okay.
in it was, I believe, just red and blue.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so seeing this in white, as an alternative to something like Addendum, if you wanted to go Azorius with this is a way to make like a blue white second spell sort of theming work.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
It also is short and sweet to the point of the legal brief bonus point. It's just here's the mechanic and then destroy all creatures and planeswalkers.
Yeah. Surge was maybe written that way. You were a teammate because Oath the Gatewatch, they were on to emphasize all the planeswalkers are teaming up. Hey, you can play two-headed giant with this format, that kind of stuff.
Right, right.
Maybe this is actually even more fun though. Like if anybody casts a spell, I get to do this thing. I can self-enable it if I want to, but I also can just kind of passively benefit from other people doing stuff. It's maybe not that likely on this retrial specifically, besides that like kind of cantrip thing that you were talking about, where I play
Mhm.
like a mana rock into this or something like this. But yeah, it feels like it opens up like more fun stuff. I've got this objection card in my hand. I'm looking at it. I'm waiting for the right time, or I've got some instant or something that I want to like hit someone with. It's kind of fun to look at that in your hand and realize, oh, I can do that. Oh, let me do that right now. Brr, brr, brr.
Mhm. Unless you have specifically free spells, whether that's like a Mishra's Bauble or like a pitch spell or something like that,
Yeah.
you are spending at least 4 mana to Wrath because this is
Hmm.
like a 3 mana objection cost, and then presumably you're spending a minimum of 1 mana on
Yeah.
the other spell component.
Hmm.
Maybe you've got like a Flicker Wisp style, like single white mana. It's not like a immediate cloud form ephemerate, but you exile a creature until end of turn, and then you for single white mana, and then you object shed, and then your creature comes back in or something.
Hmm.
But you're spending 4 mana and roughly 2 cardboard for that, which is, I think, a fair enough wrath cost.
Yeah. Simple card, cool mechanic, good submission.
Yeah.
All right. Next up from Vtbassmatt, we've got Damning Evidence for a black mana. This is a sorcery at uncommon. Objection, discard 2 cards. Any player may discard 2 to counter this spell. When they do, you may draw a card. And then its effect is destroy target creature.
Huh.
Wow.
Ristic, but instead of mana, it's kind of Punisher in a
Yeah,
Dash
Punisher.
Hopes sort of way. It's interesting that the you may
Yeah.
draw a card seems to go with whatever the objection cost is, and this particular objection card, the cost is discard 2 cards.
Yeah.
So you'd be up 3? No, you'd be up 2 cards in the bargain.
Hmm. You lose your kill spell, they lose 2 cards, you gain a card, yeah.
Mhm.
The other thing that this takes advantage of is that we're getting more used to ward costs that are a little different, like pay some amount of life or ward discard a card or ward whatever. And objection, it seems like it could have all the same kind of costs that ward has. This might have been like more weird 10 years ago, but I think now is pretty grokkable.
How do you feel about 1 black mana, destroy target creature, but with, like, a Punisher?
The Punisher level on this is pretty high. If I'm playing limited or something and I've got my, I don't know, 6/5 creature or whatever, just like some vanilla creature or whatever, and my opponent uses damning evidence on this, I am not that tempted to pay the cost. Like, I kind of have to just accept that this is happening. Because of that, this feels a little tuned up. Yeah. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking a lot about this in kind of eternal formats in kind of like a modern or legacy sort of environment. I'm thinking
Yeah.
about Browbeat or, other like Punisher things that try to tune the cost in a way. It's also interesting to think about this as, imagine a dismember or a path to exile or
Hmm.
or anything
Hmm.
like that that could be cast for 1 mana, and then your opponent casting Force of Will, like, they're effectively, exiling two cards.
I guess that's true. Yeah. It turns all cards in their hand into force of will
Mhm.
for against damning evidence, at least.
A Force of Will that kind of, like, remands because you're you're drawing the
Oh,
card.
yeah.
This is really interesting to think about, and I have no idea whether it would be extremely, like, niche sideboard card in limited or constructed
Hmm.
powerhouse in multiple formats. Like, it's kinda hard to anticipate.
I'm pretty confident this would be the best removal spell in its format, in
Mhm.
limited, because it's just so in limited. It's so hard to like have a creature that's so good you're willing to like basically lose out on 3 cards or whatever to keep it. Like that, the number of cards you have is really, 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 really important and limited, and swinging by that much is just not a payable cost.
Mhm. And the investment on the part of the player playing damning evidence is 1 mana.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
that's a good
if you're
point.
drawing into a card, it might be like action that you can still do that turn. I've
Yeah.
been running into Vexing Devil recently.
Oh,
Think
okay.
think think I played in a game where opponent cast like 3 different Vexing Devils, which is
Oh,
a single red mana for a 4/3 devil that when it enters, the opponent can just have it deal 4 damage to them to
oh,
sacrifice the devil.
uh-huh.
And, 1 mana Punisher effects, like, just anything that is slightly marginal or has this sharpness to it from, like,
Yeah.
I think about sharp in the sense of, like, a chess game
Oh,
where
okay.
it can push much more either direction rather than being kinda like a stable or quiet sorta game. When it's 1 mana, your opponent can just go damning evidence into damning evidence, and so it's like,
Yeah,
"Well, did
yeah.
you give up on the first one?
Mhm.
Oh, well, now here's the second one. You're not gonna discard 2 cards and let me draw again in order to save your creature, surely?"
Yeah, that I think that even if you pay this, it, like, turns into cycling for the caster, like,
Mhm.
and you're only paying 1 mana means that, like, you do this for free, basically, like, you're happy casting this on any reasonable creature, like, some random 3/3 that's annoying you, sure, damning evidence it, because 'cause they're never gonna pay for it, and you only paid 1 mana. And if they have like, I'm trying to think of the level of creature I would need to have where I could afford to pay this unlimited, and it's has to be a really, really, really good card.
Mhm. I mean, maybe if you've got a really funky ward cost, you have, like, ward this creature's controller gets to draw 2 cards, then it's like, "Ha I have I have immunity to
Okay.
damning evidence.
Yeah.
I'm the daughter of the mayor. You
Yeah.
can't you can't try me in court." Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool card. This is another one where we've got
Yeah.
basically 2 lines of rules text and basically 4 even with reminder text. No clerics, rogues, wizards, or warriors for these last 2 cards. So we'll see
Okay.
if those come back in on our next submission from Kumrac. It's
New submitter. Pew pew pew
new
pew.
submitter.
Wow. Wow, wow,
Pew,
wow, wow,
pew,
wow, 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 wow.
pew. The card is Cursed Graveyard Overseer. It's a
Right.
rare creature dwarf cleric. It's a 1/4 for 4 and a black. So probably has a pretty big ability.
Oh yeah.
It has Objection. You may cast this spell as though it had flash if a permanent you control or you are being targeted by a spell or an ability an opponent controls.
Hmm.
And then, whenever a creature you control dies, return it to the battlefield tapped unless one of your opponents pays a generic mana. Flavor text. What can I say? The coffins that contain them are just more expensive.
All right. All right.
And so the creatures will keep coming back unless your opponent pays for the, like, expensive Grafdigger's Cage style coffins
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
hold the undead in.
The cool coffins. Yeah. There was like an Athreos that had an effect like this. I want to
Oh,
say.
sure. Yeah.
Whenever another creature you own dies, return it to your hand unless target opponent pays 3.
I built a commander deck around that and
Oh.
a bunch of the, like, you know, like Stone Coil Serpent or,
Oh.
uh, what is the Hangerback Walker,
Okay.
the Walking
Expel
Ballista.
creatures.
Yeah, so that you could just, like, agree with an opponent and, like, set up a loop and be like, "Hey, I'm not gonna target you. Pick an opponent, and we can kill them because 'cause I'm just gonna keep having this
Hmm.
creature cast for 0, die, return to my hand, cast this creature, die," and the opponent will go like, "Yeah, I'm not paying 3 life," and you just keep doing that loop in agreement.
Yeah. You have like a blood artist or something. Yeah. And then just nuke somebody. Yeah.
It's like a guaranteed 2nd place deck. It's like, "I'm
There
not
you
gonna
go.
win first, but I can remove your
Totally.
opponents for you if you would like."
Our objection here, I think this is a pretty literal mapping of what objection means to me. And I think that that's like a pretty strong thing about this card. So you get to cast this with flash if you or one of your permanents is being targeted. So it's like, hold up, objection. You can't do that right now. I get to do this first. So I like the use of objection there. This feels like I'm gonna say objection every time I cast one of these and have a good time because of that. And yeah, this effect, when I deploy this, I'm hopefully doing it when I do guarantee that first guy comes back. So I'm paying 5 mana, but I'm saving one of my creatures from dying. And then in the future, my opponent just has to plan around it, and that's probably gonna, at least in one-on-one, not happen too many more times than that.
It's interesting to think about because the opponent is targeting something with a spell or an ability, that's almost certainly meaning they're paying some mana, and so and possibly removing the,
Hmm.
the permanent you control if it's a creature perhaps, then you can flash this in, and your opponent has less mana to spend on the extra, like, effect to stop it from just recurring,
Hmm.
uh, in that way. I wonder how different in actual practice this would be from just having Flash just on its own. Would you want to save this for,
Hmm.
like, kind of surprising your opponent when they're already tapping out to target one of your creatures? Or would you flash this in, in other circumstances?
It's kind of funny because it's like a 1/4 body, but this also maybe is pretty good if you're a kind of aggressive deck. Yeah, maybe you don't flash this out, you just play it, and whenever your opponent can't really afford to tap out. If you're aggressive, your opponent can't really afford to tap out on their turn, because then you just get to attack for free, and any of your creatures that die just immediately come back. Um, so maybe it's more powerful than I'm giving it credit for. Uh, so yeah, how much you want to flash it, I guess if they tap out, they probably won't tap out first main phase when they attack you, so you're not that likely to get a bunch of free blocks.
I think the second ability of this, the non-objection ability, is a little bit too broken. I mean, it is 5 mana for 1/4 at rare, so
Hmm.
it can have a pretty strong ability. But if you
Yeah.
have any sort of sacrifice outlet and you have
Oh,
any
yeah.
creatures with, like, any ETB or leave the battlefield or anything like that, you can
Hmm.
sacrifice your creatures, and if your opponent has, at any point, like, runs out of mana, then or is tapped out or anything like that, you can just go infinite sacrificing, because as long
Yeah.
as the creature as long as the opponent doesn't have the mana, there's no limit to how many times you could use that ability.
Yeah. Even if it's like I have to pay 2 mana per sack or something like that, like not an infinite, but just, a kind of good thing. If my opponent leaves 1 or 2 mana up, I can still maybe sack something 3 times and get through that and,
Mhm,
still benefit.
yeah.
Yeah, it is quite a powerful ability. It is a 5 mana creature, and maybe it's kind of cool to explore. Hey, it's a tiny body, big mana cost. How hard can we go? And I think this is interesting to play with. It might be surprising how good it is, which it feels like maybe a commander deck card because of that.
There's also something about this that reminds me of, like, old, old Magic.
Oh, okay.
Like, like Ice Age, Urza Saga, Visions sort of era, maybe
Hmm.
with, the little bit of, like, the risticness in it, but
Yeah, the
also I can
risks.
imagine without the objection keyword, like, you may cast this spell, in the fact that it has to be you are currently being targeted, like, that's the
Yeah,
timing window of this, that it has
yeah,
to be on the stack,
yeah,
and that it has this, like, specific recursion around, like, a tax payment on the opponent. Those those things
yeah.
together, if this was in, like, a Fool-less thing, I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, this is one of those weird cards from this is
Hmm.
actually a Abomination from Legends," or,
Okay, okay, okay.
Mhm.
I was thinking in terms of old things. I think the card name for this reads like like a translated Yu-Gi-Oh card name,
Oh, sure.
Cursed Graveyard
Mhm,
Overseer.
mhm.
That's supposed to be just like 5 kanji, but instead it's Cursed
Exactly,
Graveyard Overseer. And I put it
exactly.
in defense position or whatever. I don't know
Is the
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Overseer cursed or is the graveyard cursed?
Yeah,
Mm,
exactly.
we will never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun card. This is a cleric and has 4 lines of rules text exactly.
Next up, we've got Sagebeez with Broker's Captive. Brokers from Capenna. 2 and a
Mhm.
black for creature human noble rogue at uncommon. It's a 2/2. So 3 mana 2/2. Objection. Whenever players finish voting, each opponent who voted for a choice you didn't vote for objects, which is just a designation, I guess.
Mhm.
Whenever an opponent objects, put a +1/+1 counter on target rogue you control.
Flavor text. Cut off my tongue, slit my throat, but I'll still scream injustice until my last breath.
Oh, wow. We're going hard. Okay, yeah. Human noble rogue. So it can pump itself if you want to, or you could have a couple other rogues hanging out and pick who you want to do. Maybe rogue as an alternate to like rebel.
Mhm. As a pressure to get people to vote with you
Hmm.
or for whatever you vote for, or I think I would want this assuming this is gonna be in a set that also has a bunch of voting,
Yeah.
or maybe there's, like, a specific 3 color, that has a lot of voting specific
Hmm.
stuff maybe or something like that. I think I'd want the controller to vote first, being able to vote differently than other people to force them to retroactively object is kind of funny compared to the social pressure of
Oh,
like, "Hey, I'm voting,
yeah.
uh, kiss on this, and if you vote kill on this, then
Hmm.
then you're objecting."
Hmm.
But maybe that's too fine of a point, and it's totally reasonable either way.
I guess as a mechanic, having this objection mechanic on, let's say, 10 cards or whatever, what you're saying, I think maybe pops up more. Like, because this card itself, I don't think is really like a big deterrent to change the course of voting. Like,
Sure.
getting a +1/+1 counter in a multiplayer game is not going to like deter me from picking the choice I think is right. So it's a little bit more about soaking up a little bit of extra value. I'm playing the black-white voting deck. I have 8 ways to trigger voting. Each of those votes, I'm going to get, 1 or 2 counters on this. So this is going to be my, 3 mana 5/5, 3 mana 6/6. And, it's just kind of like hanging out while I'm doing other voting related things. And those other voted related things, those are the big plays. And this is just kind of not a filler card, but, just a card that fits in my deck.
The rare with whenever an opponent objects, they sacrifice a creature or
Absolutely.
something that is going to be a more of a sway.
Yeah, yeah. This is maybe not like fully objection flavor to me.
Mm-hmm.
But, hey, is it still saying whenever an opponent objects? Yeah, it is still saying that. So it might not be the legal, dramatic defense lawyer or whatever, but it's at least using the word correctly, I guess.
As kind of dissenting opinion.
Yeah, yeah,
It kind of makes some sense. And this
yeah.
would increase like the as fan of talking about voting and caring about voting
Mm,
without having every card be okay, now we have to
holy
go around
spell.
the whole table
Yeah,
to do that. Mhm.
yeah. Keyworded so that we can have, 10, 12 cards that care about it. And, this gets big enough that it matters. I think just the mechanic of like multiple opponents could object. And so if it's like a tied vote or, you get to pick the one side and they pick the 3 sides, so I get 3 counters. Uh, that gives this enough scaling that I feel like it's a relevant creature.
Yeah. I feel like I mean, obviously, who knows what other cards it would be alongside,
Yeah.
but whenever an opponent objects, they lose 1 life, and you put a +1/+1 counter on target rogue you control, might be something I would look at
Yeah.
to make this more squarely in kind of a black mechanical and flavor sort of space.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we probably even got that card. Grudge Keeper, I think, is one of those.
Ah,
But yeah. Cool card, paints a picture. Always love to see that.
yeah. Wow, literally, Grudge Keeper, 1 in a black for a common creature zombie wizard. Whenever players finish voting, each opponent who voted for a choice you didn't vote for loses 2 life. I had no memory of this card. It's from OG Conspiracy. Yeah, this is 4 lines of rules text, and it's a human noble rogue, which I think we see decent amount of noble rogues and that sort of thing in the maestros of New Capenna. Our next submission is from SillyPhilly. It's Hanged Jury. It's 4 black and a black for an instant at rare. It has Objection, pay 6 life. When this spell is cast, each player may pay 6 life to object.
Hmm.
Each player may only object this spell once. And then draw a card for each time this spell was objected. Then exile up to X target creatures, where X is 6 minus the number of cards in your hand.
Whoa, 6 minus the number of cards in your hand. Exile up to X target creatures.
So if I cast this and you and I both object to it, we
Okay.
each pay 6 life. I draw 2 cards,
Yeah.
and then I exile 6 minus the number of cards in my hand, which is now 2 plus whatever my hand was before, because I drew those
Oh.
cards.
Huh.
So I'm exiling maybe 4 target creatures for 6 mana, or maybe now I'm only exiling 1 because I had
Hmm.
enough cards in my hand. So if everybody at the table objects, if we're at a 6
Yeah.
player EDH pod or something, and
Here, so
everybody
this card does
objects,
nothing. Yeah.
but I still drained everyone, including myself, for 6 life, and I drew 6 cards. So even if I couldn't play Gwind, even if I couldn't hex, I was still able to. Yeah, and you have to object before targeting? But it's when the spell is cast, so that's before.
Huh.
Huh.
Yeah, there's might be something kind of tricky with targeting, announcing a spell, targeting something in there because you have to pick the targets before it resolves currently.
Mhm. So
All
the
right.
idea of a hung jury is like when the jury doesn't come to a unified resolution, right?
Hmm.
And so
I think
with
so.
a hanged jury here,
Oh,
if the players do or don't like agree, then the players can pay the cost or the creatures on the battlefield can kind of pay the
oh,
cost.
okay, okay, yeah. To me, this it's hard to stop this from exiling at least like two-ish creatures. As you know, I play out a couple cards in my hand. I'm down to one or two cards in hand, even if it's a four-player game. It's hard to get everybody to pay life to make sure that I don't kill anything. So it's going to kill a couple things. Maybe it gets to kill a couple extra things.
And if you have 7 cards in your hand when you cast this, it does nothing, which is neat because no one you can object to it
Hmm.
yourself, but no one else has any incentive to object to it. And
Yeah,
so you kind of want to be heck bent, I think is the kind of thing you want to have like 0, 1, or 2 cards in your
yeah,
hand.
yeah. The mechanics of this are just a little too funky for me. Maybe
Mhm.
I think there's a bunch of technology in here that's pretty interesting where multiple players can pay a cost to have something happen to a spell. Kind of it's like Punisher but for like the whole table maybe.
Mhm.
And that part is pretty cool.
A little bit of is it join forces? Is that the one where
Okay.
everybody can spend mana around the table and then it comes back to you? But in this case, it's potentially defanging the spell by changing what its distribution is.
Yeah, yeah. And then I pay 6 to give my opponent a card? Like even if it's going to be hard for to get the number of creatures destroyed down to 0. So it's going to be a couple creatures are going to die. And then if I want to try to like save my creature, I have to talk it out and then like I'm still giving my opponent a card.
Mhm. I can imagine this, this is keyworded, so another card maybe being like
Hmm.
a ex this red spell does 8 damage to a creature, but if people object, it can, like, spread that damage out to 2 creatures or 3 creatures or 4 creatures or 8 creatures, like, for each
Mm.
person who objects, and so you as the caster could whatever that object cost is. Maybe it's discard a card. Maybe it's something, and like, oh, I'm going to object to it once because I would like to deal 4 damage to 2 creatures instead of 8 damage to one creature. But then
Mm.
somebody's like, haha, I will also object. So now you have to spread it further, and now you don't have the 4 damage. Now you're just dealing 2 to 4 creatures or something.
Mm. 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 Thanks for the submission. Our next card is from Khord, who sent us the card Norin's Objection. It's a red mana for an enchantment. Warriors are cowards is the main rules text on this card. And then Objection, a player casts a spell. And then the reminder text there return this spell or card to your hand from the stack or battlefield whenever it's objected to.
Nice.
Okay, so this is like Norin, Norin the mechanic.
Mhm.
uh,
Norrin the Wary, who is
yeah.
a famous coward, Great and Soul Sisters sort of things, because he just constantly bounces whenever somebody casts a spell or
Mm.
attacks, I want to say. In this case, we're doing specifically cast a spell, but it's an enchantment, it's harder to remove. Return this spell or card to your hand from the stack or battlefield whenever it's objected to. From the stack is funny to me because it's like, well, we also have to put this ability on the stack, which isn't a spell, but we need to resolve that ability to remove this from the stack and then
Mm.
potentially put it back on the stack. And so maybe you want to play this alongside of a lot of instance
Yeah.
because I don't know that your opponent is going to be like, here's a free extra cast trigger, or maybe
Yeah.
you have enough opponents who like, I can't let my warriors be cowards. I can't let you get this extra enchantment.
Yeah.
We're just gonna bounce it until you run out of single red manas.
Yeah. This is like a card with like blank rules text, but just a
Yeah.
cast thing. I put this in my Naya Enchantress deck so I could just repeatedly recast this 1 mana enchantment and trigger all my constellation and enchantment matter stuff. Objection. So this is, I guess this is kind of a cousin of like illusions. Like, hey, whenever you target me, I go away. But this is whenever anyone does anything. Or I guess it doesn't have to be a player casts a spell. There could be other objections. There could be what could the other objections be?
So you'd want to return a spell or card. I mean, you could have like a skulking sort of illusion where like, hey,
Yeah.
when this is targeted, it returns itself.
Hmm.
Um, maybe like a creature dying could
Yeah.
you could have like a bridge from below sort of thing where, hey,
Mhm.
if an opponent puts something into the graveyard, then my graveyard thing gets returned to the hand where I need to recast it. Maybe there's some extra costs to casting or things.
A creature or a player loses life, gains life. Would those be objections? We need. It feels like we would want a bunch of different objections. I don't know. Maybe that's not true.
Yeah, maybe like 2 creatures attack or 3 creatures attack
Hmm.
or things. I'm thinking of like the hideaway conditions a little bit. Oh, somebody's been dealt 5 damage. Okay, well, this spell is objected to. And so, your opponent this card at least seems very much to be like a little key that you fit into an engine. But
Hmm.
hypothetically, other objection cards would be relatively strong, but with this extra condition that lets an opponent bounce them or get rid of them for a single turn,
Hmm. Hmm.
or at least until they could be recast. And I think there's something really interesting in that part, in the style of like battles or planeswalkers having here's a static or activated ability that the like players on the battlefield or the players in the game and like the creatures on the battlefield can interact to remove those things or to change like how much you can use the loyalty abilities on a planeswalker.
Hmm.
In this case, having objection of something maybe more specific than a player casts a spell could be when a creature with 4 power enters, or when a creature deals damage to this permanent's controller, or things like that, as ways to allow more interaction with non-creature permanents in ways that deal with like normal game actions.
Yeah, I think that's the level that this works on. Is that that's like interesting and does kind of stuff you don't see very often, kind of things in Magic.
Mhm.
It's a little hard for me to visualize this being like just like a workhorse mechanic that's on like 10 great cards or a couple commons or whatever. But I mean, it certainly has stuff behind it. Certainly makes you think, certainly gives you, cool abilities or the ability to print cards that you haven't really seen before, which is good.
The fact that it has the return this spell from the stack
Yeah.
component,
Yeah.
I think makes it much more a, like, niche, silly, future
Mhm.
sight
Yeah.
sort of
Okay. Yeah.
funky,
Hmm.
and maybe if it was just return this card, to hand from battlefield, whatever this particular condition is met,
Hmm.
I think. But, hey, this is 2 lines of rules text, extremely brief. This cares about warriors in an interesting
Yeah.
way. This
That's true. Yeah. Okay.
this calls back to a famous card and is, like, certainly playable in specifically, like, Constellation, Enchantress,
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah.
Or maybe just, like, weird storm things. You can
Yeah.
add to your storm count for a single red mana. Uh,
How to keep it? Is it mage busy or whatever? The playtest
yeah.
card. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Cord, thank you for this design. This is very charming. Our next submission from Qirn is Cross Examine. It's 2 and a blue for an uncommon sorcery with Objection. You may cast this spell as though it had flash as long as an opponent controls a spell.
Hmm.
When you cast this spell, copy it if you control an expert.
Oh.
Artificers, doctors, pilots, scientists, and wizards are experts. And then the actual like effect of this 2 and a blue card is scry 1, then draw a card.
All right, this card is like mapping of a card from Strixhaven that I randomly love called Mentor's Guidance. So this
Mhm.
is like when you cast a spell, copy it if you control, what was it, Strixhaven, Cleric, Druid, Shaman, Warlock, Wizard, all the spellcasty people. But here we've got experts, artificers, doctors, pilots, scientists, and wizards. And then both cards, scry one, then draw a card. So if you have one of those creatures, you get to scry one, draw a card twice. You get, divination plus. This also gives some objection on there. You can cast a spell as long as an opponent controls a spell. This is an interesting wording because this is a way to avoid saying stack on a card.
Mhm.
Maro has talked a bunch of times about not wanting to put stack on magic cards. As long as an opponent controls a spell. Yeah. It's cool. Cool wording, cool technology.
I like that there's it feels slightly courtroomy to have, okay, here's one thing. It's just gonna be scry 1, then draw a card.
Hmm.
But there's a whole bunch of other text that, like, defines when and where this can happen and what its
Mm.
effects are.
Mhm.
If you have the expert, maybe your expert witness is your expert in this case, your artificer, doctor, pilot, scientist, or wizard, then you get this a second time. And if the opponent had a thing, you control the spell, then you can do this in response. I kind of like getting to see objection here on a spell that otherwise doesn't, like, this isn't a counter spell, this isn't a removal spell, this is a refresh
Yeah.
your hand sort of
Yeah.
spell.
If we're going to have an objection mechanic, it can't just be counter spells. It can't just be, direct counterplay. It has to have other components. And this feels very courtroomy, even though
Mhm.
it's, not a counter spell. It's not interactive. But hey, we need to do more research in order to learn things about this case that we have. Yeah, that makes sense.
Looking at the art, it seems like a normal courtroom at first, and then
Yeah.
you see the little badger in a suit, and then you see the owl who has, like, the judge's wig and
Mhm. I think a
everything.
frog is maybe being is on the stand right now being questioned.
Yeah,
There's a little bit of whimsy in there too.
fascinating. Cool card.
Yeah.
And, this hits 4 lines of rules text, and compared it cares about wizards in the
Hmm.
expert.
Did we maybe sabotage ourselves by putting the 4 lines of rule text challenge in the same challenge as the mechanic? Because like everyone just has a mechanic that has like 3 lines of reminder text, and they get under the bar pretty easily.
I think it's charming. And hey, it worked well because we got
But you know
20
what?
22 submissions.
Yeah, yeah. All right, yeah, cool card. Next up, we've got Justnigel's submission, which is called Plume Signal Friar. It's 1 and a blue-white for a 1/2. So 2 mana, 1/2, hybridy, blue-white. It's a creature, frog, cleric, a common. It has objection. You may cast this creature as though it had flash. If you do, put a stun counter on it. When this creature enters, target creature gains flying until end of turn. All clear for takeoff, is the flavor text. All right, this creature enters. If I play this on my turn, not for the objection cost, I'm going to, send a creature into the air and get an attack in that I couldn't get otherwise, and then leave back a little baby blocker. If I cast this on my opponent's turn with flash, I may be ambush blocking in the skies. My opponent has a 3/3 flyer. They're attacking with. They think the skies are clear. Whoop! My big green beast goes up in the air and blocks it, and my opponent's shocked. But in exchange, I get a stun counter.
Mhm. You could also play this, as though it had flash and put the stun counter on it, but the stun counter doesn't really matter while it's initially blocking.
Oh,
Give itself flying and then block some 1/1 flying spirits or angels, or not angels,
okay.
1/1 flying spirits or 1/1 flying fairy tokens or little things like that. And then
Huh.
if this only ever blocks, the stun counter doesn't
Whoa.
matter until it attacks in, which is kind of a funny thing that it can just sit there with a stun counter for a long time.
I did not realize that. Yeah, so the stun counter, at least for this card and probably other objection cards, doesn't do anything right away because the creature doesn't enter tapped. Wow. Okay.
I know there was some discussion when this card was submitted about, whether or not stun counters go away with
Hmm.
I think some people suggested on Arena, maybe it would go away by default because stun counters just always go with tapping. But my understanding is that stun counters don't go away until the thing would untap, which is why a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that enters with, like a sleep cursed fairy sort of thing, includes a tap in the stun.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a case where you could have a stun counter. I mean, there's always moving counters, but
Mhm.
like on an existing card, like a situation with a normal card without like something bizarre, where you'd have a stun. I can't think of many cases of that. So I think rules wise, a stun counter could just sit on this creature until it becomes tapped, and then once that happens, then it prevents the next untap.
I find the Bloomborough sort of flavor of this, cute, and also imagine you've got, your Dark Steel Colossus or whatever, and
Mhm.
then you play your little frog, and then
Yeah.
whoosh, your giant thing suddenly has flying because this little frog came in.
Yeah. Have a good flight.
Mhm.
It is cute to imagine like a frog. Oh, what's my job? My job is like signaler at the Bloomborough Airport or whatever. Uh, yeah, that's very cute. Well, I'm like slightly lower on this now that we've got like stun counters on untapped creatures. That is a little unintuitive, but
Mhm.
overall, I think I like this card, and I think this is some cool stuff. I like the let's have a keyword to give a bunch of things flash, but with a downside if you use that flash. Like I think that could be cool. Like you could get 10 cards out of that. You could make an environment more fun because of that.
Something I would think about for tweaking the mechanic would be you may cast this creature as though it had flash. If you do, at the next end step, put a stun like, tap it and put a stun counter on it.
Hmm.
So, it could still engage in, like, the combat blocking and that sort of thing, but
Okay.
it's going to be and maybe you need 2 stun counters on it that way or something, but, like, effectively, you can't use this for hasty. Like, you can't use flash to get pseudo haste.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Our next submission is from KennaKhaos, who I believe was just on the most recent episode, depending on when this
Yeah.
episode comes out. Really fun time. This is Smothering Conversationalist. It is white for a 2/2 rare creature human cleric advisor. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you gain 2 life.
Hmm.
And objection, 5 mana. Anytime an opponent could cast a sorcery, they may pay 5 mana. If they do, this creature loses all abilities.
Oh, interesting. There's a lot going on here, actually.
Mhm.
So whenever my opponent draws a card, gain 2 life. Hey, half a Shieldred, and then anytime an opponent could cast a sorcery, they may pay 5. So opponents can't actually stop you gaining life off of their normal card draw for the turn. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. But it's whenever an opponent draws a card, not whenever you draw a card.
My opponent's paranoid about me gaining life. They've almost got me dead. They go to draw their card and like, wait, I can object. Oh, wait, no, I can't object. It's sorcery speed to pay 5.
Oh, that's a good point.
If they are going to cast a card draw spell, they could pay 5 more before they
Mhm.
cast that card draw spell, which,
So, the card that I'm thinking about as, like, somewhat precedent for this is Leonin Arbiter,
hmm,
one of, like, the big hate bears of Magic's history. 1 and white for a 2/2 creature cat cleric at rare, and, players can't search libraries. Any player may pay 2 generic mana for that player to ignore this effect until end of turn.
yeah, that would be object 2, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
codifying that in some way makes sense.
yeah,
Tying it specifically to sorceries does feel funny around specifically the draw a card thing as you
Yeah.
as you mentioned. Although, wait a minute. This says, if they do, this creature loses all abilities, period.
Yeah.
It's not until end of turn. So your opponent can take a turn off. Yeah, you gain 2 life from them drawing their card during their draw step. They just spend 5 mana to blank the card. You kind of time walked, but
Yeah.
still.
It's like anti-exhaust or like it's like a one-time make that thing weaker. Yeah. Monstrous, I guess, is another thing like that. Yeah. Wow, this is crazy.
It is Punisher in a big way because your
I guess
opponent
that's true. Yeah.
can
Delayed
just
Punisher. Yeah.
decide not to do it or spend the mana if it's ever, like, going to really impact the game in one way or another,
Mm.
assuming they have 5 mana and time to waste on it. Do you recognize this art?
Uh, nope.
So I was like, "This is funny because it looks so much like the School of Athens," and I looked it up, and yes, this is by an artist, Jackson
Oh,
So, who painted a reimagination of the classic painting School of Athens by the Renaissance, artist Raphael.
oh, it's a famous painting. Oh,
It's a
okay.
famous painting, but this is a modern, let's see, like, 2023
Yeah, yeah.
repainting of it from, like, a
Oh,
very
okay.
slightly different
Yeah,
point of view with much
yeah.
more shades.
Dramatic lighting. Yeah. I thought you were saying, "Oh, I recognize this place. This looks like the School of Athens." I'm like, "Holy crap, Juliet."
I mean, I did. I recognize the place and the figures, and I'm like, but I've never seen them from, like, this slightly different point of view.
Uh,
It's a
I'm there in my mind so often that this just naturally occurred to me.
do you know who the 2 men in the center of the painting are?
Uh, no clue. Plato. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
And who would be there with Plato?
Aristotle.
Yep, you got
Whoa!
it!
Yes. I'll just name Greek people.
Uh-huh.
Man, I killed it today. Whew.
And
Good.
as we all remember, Socrates taught Plato, Plato taught Aristotle, and Aristotle
Mm.
taught Alexander the Great.
I think Socrates would have been my. Is that like a "They Might Be Giants" song that you just quoted? What was that?
No, it's just like a delineation of time that's
Okay,
helpful
okay, okay.
for anchoring these people in kind of
Hmm.
a loose sort of order.
I think Socrates would have been my other guess, but I felt like I
Mhm.
couldn't get so lucky that the thing I guessed is also a magic card, so I had to go one step deeper.
Do you know that, Plato was a wrestler? It's like a buff
Oh,
dude who, like, I believe had a, like, perfect winning streak or something like that.
so the tweet that's like "fuck him up," Socrates should have been "fuck him up, Plato," is what you're saying?
Who could say? Who could say?
Amazing. Yeah, this card is like objection. Yeah, I guess this is like this is kind of muffle. This is like a like I'm getting over 8 creatures with like a downside that it can get turned off, frontier justice style.
And if you're like, "Oh, well, I've made this card and I think it might be broken." Okay, well, let's just put objection 4 mana on it so that if it ever is, like if this, primeval titan is ever, like, destroying a format or
Yeah.
what's like a Deathrite Shaman,
Yeah.
like, if you've got something that's really destroying
Mhm.
a environment, just be like, "Oh, well, we put objection on it," so that players can just have a buyout clause.
There's like a mind control that like your opponent can get rid of if they like discard 2 cards and give you 2 cards, and that feels like kind of the same thing here.
Mhm. And this is a cleric, and it
Mhm.
has the requisite amount of, I think this is effectively comes to 3 lines of rules text, but it's basically 1.5.
Yeah, yeah.
One last thing, I love to see, much like Traveling Philosopher from Eros, these Greek philosophers, they aren't little 1/1s. They're a 2/2 for 2. They're a
Yeah. Well, like you said,
on
he's a
turn for 4.
wrestler.
Mhm. Exactly.
All right, yeah. Our next one, and maybe our last for this chunk of the review, is from Larcent. Larcent submitted and retracted their card a couple times, so I'm curious what they landed on. They've got Inspiring Interlocutor. 1 and a white for a 1/3 creature dwarf cleric, 2 mana 1/3 at common. That is lifelink. And then tap, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. It also has objection. If an opponent controls a non-creature spell, instead put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. It gains lifelink until end of turn. It's a ability that I could use whenever I want, but I get a cooler version while my opponent has a non-creature spell in the stack.
Huh. I like to think of myself as an inspiring interlocutor.
Oh, that's how I always think of you.
A word that I think has come up on multiple design challenge review episodes of
I
the
knew how to pronounce it, and that's my that's what indicates to me that it must have come up on an episode before.
Mhm.
Do you also carry around multiple scrolls in like a little ink pot as you go
I
about your day?
used to. I not anymore these days.
Okay,
Everything's
okay,
become
okay.
so digital.
Mm.
It's all PDFs these days.
You still have your
So
utility fez?
multiple different quills of with different feather lengths and, like a nib for a
This dwarf has tenure for sure. They have some knowledge that the university is not willing to part with right now.
as they say on the internet, "God, I wish that were me." But anyways, how much does the presence of being able to turn a buff into a +1/+1 counter,
Mm,
how much does that if I have this creature on the battlefield, what amount of weight does this put on you to cast or not cast your
mm.
non-creature spells?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking if I'm controlling this card, I'm kind of giddy because just giving something +1/+1 until end of turn whenever I want is like naturally like a good like this card
Mhm.
without the objection clause, just the 1/3 lifelink tap, give a +1/+1. I'm already like reasonably happy with. I can imagine that being good enough in a deck, and that I get to stay like on the hunt, or I get to like suppress some of my opponent's actions with this objection ability. I'm licking my lips. I'm feeling good about playing this card.
Yeah, it's even more flexible than, like, Angelic Page is the one that I
Yeah,
tend to think
yeah,
about.
yeah,
This can block as a 2/4 lifelinker, which is pretty neat, and then the counter's gravy on top of that.
yeah. The counter is gravy, and I feel like how often will I get the counter? Maybe not that often because I feel like my opponent can play around it. But them playing around it is giving me more value than I think I even was expecting. When I played a card of this kind.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
How do you feel about this card as a common?
yeah, that I think that's a question too. I think I would be happy enough playing this as uncommon because that +1/+1 is quite good on its own, and that it like messes with my opponent's flow like to a pretty big degree. If they mess up, I get a counter and I get lifelink. Those are things my opponent has to pay attention to, and putting that at common is maybe a little too intense.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, Kabuto Moth
Oh
would be
yeah,
the other one that
yeah,
was, like I mean, that really felt like a limited staple and thing you have to always be thinking about
yeah. That card
sort of
is
thing.
quite powerful. Tap that in that case, target creature gets +1/+2 until end of turn.
And it being a 1/2 could turn itself into a 2/4. In this
Yep.
case, it's just adding +1/+1, but it can still turn itself into a 2/4, and I feel like lifelink on the card itself I mean, this really is kind of firing on all cylinders in terms
Mhm.
of getting you some value. Maybe there is a lot of, like, aggression, and this helps
Mm.
slow slow a kind of prowess, deck down, provide some counterweight and counterplay to
Yeah.
a very prowess sort of strategy.
Yeah, so maybe uncommon is the way to keep that in line. This is a cool card. I'm playing it. I'm putting it in decks.
Do you think objection here is improvements on activated abilities with if an opponent controls a non-creature spell? Is that the kind of ability
Yeah.
word of it?
Uh, I can see it also being on an instant as well.
Sure. Mhm.
Hey, target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Objection. Instead, they get +4/+4 until end of turn.
Yeah. It's a, it doesn't have 4 lines or fewer of rules text, but it is a cleric. It's
Yep.
got the party the first bonus point.
Cool tweak. Cool card. You ended up in a good spot, Larcent. I think we're probably going to split this episode into two, not just because we have a million cards, but also because Discord's having a little bit of trouble today. We appreciate Discord even when they're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's your pick from the first half here? What's your favorite?
Ooh. I think I'm going to go with Norin's Objection, the submission from Khord. It's got such a fun little fiddly, that is it mage sort of
Yeah.
sort of feel to it. And I think it tying in that very future sight-y way, like tying multiple cards from the history of magic together to make a clear flavor sort of statement that
Hmm.
then ends up having kind of a dark steel relic sort of impact.
Yeah. A card without significant rules text. Yeah.
Yeah. And it fulfilled both the bonus points in, I think, a really smooth way of just 2 lines of rules text, ca caring about warriors.
So they're not just under 4, they're under 2, and you're like going premium on that.
Mhm.
All right. I think if we're going for just like the most solid, like most objection, like very much objection, very much courtroom, very much whatever, I think that would have to be cross-examine. It paves a clear path for what this mechanic is for. I feel like that clause of like has flashes and opponent controls a spell is something that will come up all the time. It's fun to look at in my hand. It's fun to plan ahead. So the keyword is very good. And then the effect makes sense with flavor. We need other things besides just like stopping my opponent's spell for a keyword to matter. And I like that this is kind of the total package card.
The kind of quiet reference to having an expert witness with
Yeah.
the batch of
Mhm.
expert, I think really helps the card come together well too.
We didn't say that during the review, but that's 100% true. And I think really useful for making the court flavor work. There were plenty of other cards that were sick, and like even in just seeing half these cards, I'm already impressed by how many variations people came up with. But yeah, that's the total package card for me for this week. Um, but yeah, that's about it for the. Or no, I shouldn't say that. So even though we're splitting this into two halves, we still want to get you guys the next design challenge.
So we've got our September design challenge we're excited to, see all the submissions
Mm-hmm,
for.
mm-hmm.
It's Hit the Books. Design a card with a 3-card spell book. All cards in the spell book should be canon magic cards.
This is a tough one. I thought objection was tough and people rose to the challenge. I think this one's even tougher. So this is going to be like alchemy style cards, right? Where you're going to
Mhm.
say when this creature enters, draft a card from its spell book, and then like there'll be 3 cards to pick from.
So we saw this with the Alchemy Eldraine, where they had the 3 little pigs as
Mm,
3 sort of novel cards, but existing specific cards. Here's the first little pig. Here's the second little pig. Here's the third little pig. And then we also saw from Alchemy Ixalan, there was Brazen Boarding, where the cards in the spell book are just cards from Ixalan, either the, like, original Ixalan or Lost Caverns of Ixalan, so you could get
yeah,
Spyglass Siren or Admiral Beckett Brass out there.
like a burn spell that the more excess damage you deal, the better a card you get back. The spell book can be something where you just, when this enters, pick one of these 3 cards and draw that card, or they can be more conditional than that. And I think that's where I'm hoping we see all the kind of variations here, where sometimes spellbooks kind of have a bad rap because sometimes spellbooks have like a dozen cards, but we're locking it down to 3. There's just 3 cards that are going to be referenced. Partly to kind of aid that, we've got some bonus points here. One of those is common knowledge. Either the design submission itself or the 3 spellbook cards are common. And then our other bonus point is School of Fish. The card is a merfolk or cares about merfolk or gifts a fish, which is a funny Juliet had on there.
Mhm.
So, School of Fish there. Give us a merfolky card. Merfolk are in schools, I guess. Going back to Lorwyn soon, so we can get
Yeah.
some of that flavor.
Stony Brook Schoolmaster, of course,
There you go.
naturally.
Yeah. What kind of spell book are you starting to think about?
You don't have to do this, but if you can give us a common submission that has uncommon or higher cards and not exclusively, but you like can do some kind of wild things in
Mm.
its spell book. Classic like, oh, here's a little angel summoner who if everything comes into the right alignment, then ta-da, here's a
Mm.
big summon. I'm thinking kind of this cycle from original Alara where if you
Mm.
drafted the cards, you could get, like, Imperial Archangel onto the
Oh, okay.
battlefield.
Oh, okay.
Little guy who invokes or brings in a big thing is
Mm.
is sometimes kind of interesting, but we could
Mm.
also think about, the various kind of, "Oh, I'm the inventor. Did I come up with, like, the Dragonfire Vial or the Heart Piercer bow?" Or
Mm. Yeah.
there's lots of different things. Is this a witch with, like, festering newt and the different familiars? You
Oh,
can you
okay.
can play
Yeah.
around with a lot of different ideas. Seeing what people come up with for that sort of mechanic is,
Yeah.
something that I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yeah. This is going to be pretty new, and I'm excited for the submissions. If you'd like to get your card in for the episode, that's going to be due September 26th, is when you have to get that in by.
Great.
Before we get out of here, a couple more bonus plugs for things to do. You Make the Pack is going at the fullest strength I've ever seen You Make the Pack be. People are way into it. There's tons of cars, tons to review. This is our little Discord activity where we build a pack like one card at a time. Check out the last episode. We went into it in a lot of depth and even designed some cards there. Also, if you haven't yet, check out our Green White Legacy Cube channel where we're looking for submissions, custom cars that could fit in a kind of legacy vintage power level cube that are green and white. But that's about it for the podcast for the week. Hop on the Discord. You can also go to beaconofcreation.com to see card images, Scryfall galleries, notes from the episodes, stuff like that. Anything you want to tell people about, Juliet?
Sure. So when you're listening to this, we over at Moonshot, twitch.tv/Moonshot Network, are in the middle of our Princess Week of
Oh,
streams. And so literally as we're recording this, so this will be in the past by the time you're listening to it, but we will have done the sequel to the original Put Riley in a Dunk Tank stream.
oh,
But after that, we're doing a week based on the charity stream that we did this spring. People voted with their donations on what like a theme week we should do. And so we're doing a
okay.
week of like princess related stuff, which I think is going to be fun. And I will be GMing a one shot of kind of a hack of the Good Society this
All
coming
right.
Sunday. But you can tune in basically every evening to twitch.tv/Moonshot Network, and we'll be doing something pretty fun. We've got a big princess bracket happening on Friday that I think people are really excited about. And
You gonna like rank princesses?
yeah, we've been putting together a big list of princesses to be in contention against one another.
All right. Those are probably like evenings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Evening basically every day for a whole week.
All righty. Definitely be sure to check some of that stuff out. I'm curious about this princess bracket. I wonder what that's going to be about.
Mhm.
If you need to talk to either of us, just find us on Discord. That's the best place to do it. Or on Blue Sky. I'm the same name there, Tim F. Riley. And then I forgot your yeah, I haven't said your Blue Sky name in forever.
Oh, no, it's fine. Folly persist on Blue
Holy
Sky and
persist.
elsewhere. Like, Mulligan has my oh, yeah, here, we'll do a thanks for listening, and always remember, Mulligan has my telegram. Folly persist.
Oh, that does it.
It's James Joyce riffing on William Blake, riffing on the Bible.
Damn. We got the like maximum strength Juliet blast the second the episode ends.
Because, like, in the Bible, it's, "As a dog returneth to its vomit, so a fool persisteth in his folly." And then
Oh.
William Blake says, "The fool who persists in his folly becomes wise." And then James Joyce, as "Brevity is the soul of wit," says, "Folly, period.
Hmm,
Persist."
amazing.
Yeah. What is it to be human but to, like, make mistakes and then just keep going, right?
Yeah, it's over my head.